This is something very special, very personal for the two of us right now. Joining us now here in the Situation Room is Tom Johnson. He served as the president of CNN from 1990 to 2001. He's the author of a truly fascinating, excellent, brand new book entitled Driven: A Life in Public Service and Journalism from LBJ to CNN. And I recommend this book very, very highly. Also with us, the veteran journalist, the former CNN anchor, Judy Woodruff. She's also a senior correspondent now for PBS NewsHour, wrote the foreword for Tom's new book. And Judy, thanks very much for coming back, at least today, to CNN. Thanks very much to both of you for joining us. Tom, let me start. Your second day on the job at CNN was August 2nd, 1990. Yes. That was the day after the Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein decided to invade Kuwait. Yes. Operation Desert Shield became Operation Desert Storm. We had reporters, producers, camera people in Baghdad, but they were being threatened. And you got calls from the President of the United States, the Defense Secretary, and others to get those people out as quickly as possible. Pick up the story.
Well, thank you. President Bush, 41, called. Marlin Fitzwater, who was the press secretary to the president, called, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Colin Powell, all three of whom said, get out of Baghdad. Your people are in grave danger, and you should do it as rapidly as possible. I thanked the three of them for their call, and then called Ted Turner, who said, Tom, our policy will be those who wish to stay can stay. Those who wish to come out can come out. As it turned out, nobody could get out. The Saddam Hussein airport was closed, and so all of our staff stayed and endured quite an experience and did it quite well.
I remember that so vividly. I was CNN's Pentagon correspondent while you were getting calls telling you to pull our reporters out. Like all the major news organizations, they were pulling their reporters, their journalists out of Baghdad because it was so dangerous. I was getting calls from the Defense Secretary, Dick Cheney, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Colin Powell. Tell your bosses, they said, get those people away from the El Rashid Hotel. That place is going to be bombed. The Iraqis have military intelligence operations there. Get them out as quickly as possible. And I remember calling you and Ted Turner and saying, this is what they're warning us.
Yep. Those warnings were so serious. We knew that it had to be decided quickly. But we had a team of reporters there who wanted to stay. I mean, Peter Arnett particularly wanted to stay. And so we supported that. And I should also say that Ted said, Tom, I know you lost two reporters when you worked for the Los Angeles Times. I will take off of your conscience and put on mine the possible loss of any of our staffers while there. I went to bed that night not believing that our staffers would be alive the next day. But fortunately, very fortunately, we were.
And wasn't one of them Nick Robertson?
Nick Robertson was one of our producers there at the time, a young producer at the time in Baghdad. He stayed as well. Bernie Shaw and Judy, all of us remember you were co-anchoring on CNN with Bernie Shaw. You remember him
Later
well.
On,
and I was at the Pentagon when I heard him. You joined CNN after the war, but I remember Bernie saying in Baghdad, when all the other news organizations had fled for understandable reasons, Bernie saying, the skies over Baghdad have been illuminated. And we have that clip. Let me just play that clip to remind our viewers what was going on.
We're going to Bernard Shaw in Baghdad.
This is, something is happening outside. Peter Arnett joined me here. Let's describe to our viewers what we're seeing. The skies over Baghdad have been illuminated. We're seeing bright flashes going off all over the sky.
It was amazing to hear Bernie Shaw, Peter Arnett, John Holliman, our reporters there, actually doing live coverage. No other news organization was still there.
And I was at PBS at the time, and of course every other news organization was watching CNN because CNN was the only news organization on the ground. And that's classic Bernie. I mean, Bernie wanted to be where the action was. And they, I think, Tom, didn't know they were going to make it through that night. Isn't that right?
They did not. I also should say, you mentioned Nick Robertson. He had developed a program, a so-called four-wire, that enabled us to be able to circumvent the Iraqi communication system, the Iraqi power system, and to be able to report audio live where all other networks went down.
And I remember when I was reporting in those days safely from the Pentagon, most dangerous thing I had to do was drive on the Beltway to the Pentagon. But I remember being so worried about my friends and colleagues who were in Baghdad at that time because I had been warned by the Defense Secretary, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, get those people out of there. They're probably going to get killed.
Yes, they did. And also, Ted Turner was resisting fiercely any orders from the Pentagon or from the White House. I mean, he felt that we had a responsibility to cover this major story, the biggest major international and U.S. story of those times. And so we had the support of the owner of CNN. And I think about that today when so many news organizations seem to be threatened by government, almost persecution in a way. The importance today, and this is a huge breaking news day, of the importance of covering independently and honestly the news that I think the American public and people all over the world wish to have.
If I could just add, I mean, it was truly one of the hallmarks of Tom Johnson's presidency of CNN and Ted Turner being the boss and the founder of CNN, that they had the back of their correspondents. The message that went out to anybody who worked for the news organization is, we're here for you. Ted Turner's mantra, Tom, and you can correct this, was it's about the news. We want you to go out and cover the news, and we're here to back you up.
And then, Wolf, I hired Judy Woodruff, which was another major milestone in my life and in the life of CNN.
You had some great hires. And actually, you played a key role, Tom, on the Situation Room co-host right here, because the first time I ever met Wolf Blitzer was at your house in, what would you say, 1994?
1994, you invited me and my wife, and you invited Pamela and her family to come to your house in Atlanta when my Buffalo Bills were playing the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. You had tickets for the Super Bowl, and we stayed at your house. I don't know if you remember that. She was a little, you were, what, 10 years old?
I was 10 years old, and Tom has been a mentor to me ever since. I mean, he's played a key role in why I'm a journalist to this day and why I continue to pursue this career path. So, Tom, I just want to note that for our audience. And I've known you for so long. I talked to you, I picked your brain about your career, which has been incredible. It's all in this book, Driven. Tell us why you chose to write this book now.
I fell in love with journalism at a young age. I was so fortunate to work in a small newspaper where the reporters, the editors, and the owners believed in a young, aspiring journalist. That newspaper sent me to get an undergraduate degree, get a Harvard Business School degree, but more than that, I have had the experience of working with President Johnson at the White House, working with Otis Chandler, the owner of the Los Angeles Times, and then in those more recent years to work with Ted Turner. And I have had some inside the room experiences with them, sometimes just the two of us together, and I thought that it was worthy of doing. And I should tell you that my wife, Edwina, was the force to get me to do this. And I also should tell the viewers that we have loved mentoring young journalists, and particularly like a young woman out of Chapel Hill who was a student there, and then who went to work with a Washington news organization, News Channel 8, as well as Albritton Communications, but also to be a part of your lives. Journalists live interesting lives. They make a difference. I think they make as much of a difference as any public servants, and I've seen both sides of the track. But the three of you personify the very best in journalism, and I hope that those are looking for role models for themselves for the future will want to grow up to be just like the three of you and have owners. Like Ted Turner.
Those executives are so critically important because without their leadership and their support, we couldn't be doing the jobs that we're doing. Tom, once again.
Happy birthday, Tom.
Thank
you. Got to
you.
get that
Today
in
is
there.
your
It's Tom's
birthday.
birthday.
Just buy hundreds of copies if you want.
There you go. No big deal. For his birthday, guys.
This is the
Come on,
book,
it's a small
Driven, A
ask.
Life in Public Service and Journalism, from LBJ to CNN, and forwarded by Judy Woodruff.
Yes.
Thanks
Yes.
for doing this.
Thank you.
Thanks to
Appreciate
both
it,
of
Tom.
you for being great journalists. We know you love journalism. You're both news junkies, as we are as
Yes,
well.
we are.
And thanks for introducing me to Pamela many years ago.
And for being such a great mentor. All right. Thank you all so much.